All right, so hello everyone. We are so fortunate this evening to have Dodd from IRIS, the Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services organization, here to share information, resources, and educate all of us in the community about what we might be able to do to help immigrants get settled and become part of our community as they resettle into their new homes. So, without further ado, Dad, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to you and all those who have participated in this gathering to this evening at this very difficult and challenging time surrounding refugee and immigrants. First of all, I would like to say a few words about myself, kind of introduction, and then I will go through this presentation. As you mentioned at the end, we will definitely be able to field any kind of question anyone might be having. My full name is Muhammad Dot. Sarwari is my last name, and I usually go by Dot. That's the second part of my name. I'm coming originally from Afghanistan. I came with my family to the United States and was resettled in Connecticut by IRIS, Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, in 2017. And I have seen my firsthand that how the services that these refugee resettlement agencies provide to the newcomers are crucial and critical to establish a new life in a completely new country. Since 2017, I have been working with IRIS in different portfolio. Currently, I am holding the position of Community Sponsorship Associate Director of Community Sponsorship. Through my job, I have been working with a number of wonderful community sponsor groups across Connecticut. As part of my introduction is ended, but I would like to explain a little bit about the sponsorship program. So traditionally, IRIS has been resettling refugees and immigrants in Connecticut through two different ways. One is that our paid staff members are providing those basic services in the first 3 months that the refugees arrive. That is housing, enrollment of kids in school, connecting them with the healthcare providers, and helping them secure employments. And the other way we do is that we work with group of volunteers in different towns across Connecticut. We train them, this group of volunteers, we background check them, and then we place a refugee family with them so that they can provide that wraparound services that otherwise would have been provided by IRIS staff members. This has been a very successful program because this provides an opportunity to the local communities to see firsthand who are refugees, whether or not they are contributing to our beautiful state and thereby to our beautiful country. During my work with these wonderful groups across Connecticut, I have found out that almost 80 to 90% of these groups continue to remain engaged in our mission of welcome. It is not only one time that a family was resettled by groups, and they repeatedly, every year, every couple of months, they come back and ask us for another family to assist them establish a new life in Connecticut. So that has been very rewarding, but also it has been very encouraging. And also I should mention that this wonderful program that we had in Connecticut, so successful, inspired a national program called Welcome Corps. Welcome Corps was a national community-based refugee resettlement program that was initiated and launched by the previous administration. And unfortunately, this was suspended by the new administration and current administration. This was providing an opportunity for the local communities to come together as a group of volunteers to welcome a refugee family and help them become self-sufficient or self-dependent. With that, probably with a long introduction of myself, but also introduction of my job, now I go through this presentation. So first, I have to say that who we are as a refugee resettlement agency. So Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services was established in 1982 in Connecticut as a nonprofit agency whose mission is to help refugees and other displaced people establish new lives, strengthen hope, and contribute to the vitality of Connecticut's communities. Currently, these refugee resettlement agencies across the country has been hit so badly by some discouraging policies that have been adopted by the current administration. Since no refugees are coming, almost zero, except with some exceptions that I will explain later on, what we are doing as a refugee resettlement agency. So the first thing that we do is, as an overall strategy of our organization, is that we need to adapt, meaning that we have to be here, and we are determined to be here to welcome refugees again whenever that becomes possible. We also know that resettlement alone is not enough. All immigrants, including refugees who are already here, that we have welcomed within the last few years, thousands of them in Connecticut, by the way, struggle to achieve self-sufficiency, and too few are actually thriving after several years in the United States. And there are some barriers that I'm going to outline later on. And also that we know that IRIS has over 40 years of experience serving newcomers through their first 5 years, and often much longer through case management, education, legal services, and employment services. We're also trying to, at the current situation, explore new partnership and deep collaboration to maximize every dollar while expanding our reach and ensuring our sustainability. So we have adopted a strategy that we are trying to minimize our operational cost while trying to maximize every dollar has been invested in refugee resettlement agency. We're also ready to keep fighting for those in danger, for those already here, and also for the values that defines us. And this is a moment of crisis, but also of moral clarity. And therefore, we keep doing our work when we're determined to continue with our lifeline services to those vulnerable population that we have welcomed within the last years or so. So I would like to first summarize that what does it mean? What has been the impact of the current administration after President Trump took the office? First, what they did was that they ended a couple of policies that targeted refugee and immigrants. So ending birthright citizenship. So they revoked automatic citizenship for children born in the United States to a non-citizen parents. So this was actually enshrined in the 14th Amendment of our Constitution, which allowed any baby born on American soil were automatically a US citizen, regardless of the parent's status. So that has been revoked, but it has been blocked by the federal judge. The second, suspending refugee admission. So United States traditionally and historically has been very generous, admitting the refugees from across the world. And this was called United States Refugee Admission Program, as the acronym is USRAP. This was halt, and many refugees, thousands of them that were cleared to fly and be admitted to the United States and resume a new life in the United States now are stranded overseas. And then also they adopted policy to enhance vetting. And I will come later on to tell you what vetting was involved with refugees that we welcomed, or traditionally we have been welcoming to the US. Already there is a strong vetting process involved with refugees before they are cleared to fly and come to the United States. But also securing borders was another policy of the current administration. That's the calls for physical barriers, increased deportations, and termination of humanitarian parole programs for nationals of Cuba, Haitian, and Nicaraguan, and also Venezuelan. And of course, the same applies to the Ukrainian, but also Afghans. Declaring a border emergency, which authorizes military deployment and aerial surveillance at the southern border. Of course, trade and immigration linkage. They're trying to review trade agreements like USMCA, which could affect visa programs such as TN visas for Canadian and Mexican professionals. So who we serve currently? So what are the categories of the immigrants that we serve? So we are serving refugees, asylees, and also humanitarian parolees. Refugees as a definition is applying to those people or person who are due to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationalities, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside of the country of his own nationality and is unable, or due to such fear is unwilling to avail himself of protection of that country, or who, not having a nationality and being outside the country of his former habitual residence as a result of such events, is unable, or due to such fear is unwilling to return to his country of origin. So refugees are those, obviously, that has a fear of persecution in his or her country of origin, and for that reason cannot return, and therefore seeking asylum in a third country, meaning before coming to the US, they have to go to a country which might be closer to their country of origin, and there they have to apply for asylum. And once they are granted an asylum, then they will be in a basket of refugees to be considered for resettlement in a country where the refugees are admitted or accepted or welcomed. And that's the biggest number of the clients that we have had. And historically, US has been very generous welcoming this category of refugees. And the second category is asylees. Asylees are those who are seeking international protection in countries with individualized procedures. An asylum seeker is someone whose claim has not yet been finally decided on or by the country in which the claim is submitted. Not every asylum seeker will ultimately be recognized as a refugee, but every refugee was initially an asylum seeker, as I mentioned earlier. They were asylum seeker in a third country, meaning not in their country of origin, not in the United States, for example, if they have been resettled in the United States, but in a third country. So the third categories that we are serving is humanitarian parolees. Humanitarian parole is a temporary discretionary authorization to enter the United States that has been granted based on humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons. With the recent years, the United States has had a large number of humanitarian parolees enter the United States or paroled into the United States. I think two highlights from those categories are the Ukrainian nationals, but also Afghan nationals after the fall of Kabul. So these two population or nationals, quite a good number of them came to the United States and they were paroled in the United States. Parolees means that once they come to the United States, they have a very temporary protection. There is not a clear path for a permanent residency. While refugees and asylees, they do have, especially refugees, they have a clear path to citizenship and permanent residency. But the humanitarian parole is they do not. They have a temporary protection. They enter in the country, and then after they enter the country, they need to start applying for asylum, for example, or other kind of protection to extend their stay in the United States. If they manage to provide a well-founded grounds for not being able to return their country of origin, and then they will be granted asylum, and thereby then you can apply for a permanent residency too. I think I'm going to just skip this portion because immigrants, this one is based on a kind of different type of visas that people come to this country and work in this country. We do not have much services for them. I skip this also video, but going to services and programs that we have for the refugees and asylees and humanitarian parolees, by the way. The first services we have is the education services. I would like to set last year, 2024, as a baseline, as example, as a patterns, to say what number of population IRIS served. And when it comes to the education, of course, when the new refugee families arrive in the United States, we are trying to help the adults to be enrolled in ESL classes to start improving their English and their language. But also we try to help them, their kids, school age, to be enrolled in school. Just in 2024 federal fiscal year, 179 pre-K enrollments, meaning that kids who are not eligible to be in elementary school, we had to enroll them in a pre-K. 447 kids were enrolled from K to 12 grades. And 50 kids were enrolled in a school choice. Of course, their application was submitted. And then 781 adults were enrolled in ESL classes. And also 42 kids or clients were helped with their college enrollment. And this was only for 2024 fiscal year. And underneath of this education program, we also have youth education programming. So we manage this after school and summer programming. So for that, we do have two kind of programs. We have youth leadership that I will come later, but also we have summer learning program, what we call. This program is launched during the summer break when the public schools are closed and is on summer break. So what we do is that we talk to one of the public school and they give us a space, and we enrolled all those new refugee kids to be enrolled in that 2 months schooling. We are not only that could help them to improve their English language proficiency, but also navigate the new schooling system in this country, because in the country they come from, some of them had access to public school, some of them they did not have, and they do not know how to navigate the school system. For example, there are some very simple things. So every night kids come, they have to open their backpack and see what papers have been put there. Maybe there are papers that the teachers put, they need to be returned and signed by the parents, that need to be returned to school. So all this culture of schooling in the United States are going to be taught along with the English language classes, but also other subjects. With the summer learning program. And then we have youth, year-round youth leadership. So for teenagers, focusing on English language skills, personal development, cross-cultural understanding, civics, and community services are so important. And therefore, we have a number of services and programs to target that particular categories of our clients. And then also we have, under education services, we have IRIS After School program. That's for newly arrived 3rd through the 8th grade students, focusing on English and literacy, homework help, also artistic expression, and a sense of belonging, which is so important. And I have put some figures around here that what number of clients participated in the services within the last year, federal fiscal year. And then under education, we also have family literacy. This is very important one for those parents. For example, I'm coming from Afghanistan myself as a special immigrant visa holder because we work with the US military there. And a number of other fellow Afghans that came to this country, many of those adults, unfortunately, did not have access to a proper education during their childhood in that country. And therefore, they remain pre-literate in their own language, let alone to be able to really learn English language as a secondary language. So therefore, we have launched this family literacy, what we call, to tackle some of the barriers, especially for the mothers, for the moms coming from those countries. If they have a very young child, which is a barrier or who are a barrier for the mothers to attend English classes. So a lot of English classes that are available do not provide a childcare, but this program of IRIS does. So we offer family literacy programs to address those two pronounced barriers to learning English. So one is the childcare needs, of course, the babies, the mothers with the babies, of course, they can come to attend English classes while their children could also be in a separate room and taken care of. But also it's a cultural preferences for single gender classes. There are a number of clients that we have welcomed that because of not their fault, and this has been a cultural things, they have grew up in a kind of very conservative society where gender work always separated and did not have much to interact, and they had no chance to be in school, to have any co-education or so be exposed on those part. Therefore, we do provide a kind of special classes for the mothers, female, who can feel comfortable there. But also, it could provide a kind of critical social and emotional benefits for those adults, because a lot of them could be at home and staying at home and not much exposed to outside of the house to the people because of language barrier. But the same applies to their babies and kids that they are taking care of and looking after them there. So this is a good space for both, for mothers and also their babies. And that's the number in fiscal 2024. It has increased this year in 2025. 171 women participated in this family literacy, and there were 94 young children that also participated in this family literacy. In the second program after education, we have health services. And for health services, besides that, we try to connect the families and their children with the primary care providers and make sure that their required refugee health assessment is completed. By the way, here inside the parentheses, I have to add that before refugees come to the United States, they go through intensive and rigorous medical check besides security check. And despite that, once they arrive in the country, we are required as refugee resettlement agencies to make sure that they go through another thorough medical check before the adults are exposed to the public, meaning that they are enrolled in ESL classes or helped with employment before the children are enrolled in public school. So those are a second layers that we do here. So besides that, there are a lot of other challenges health challenges that are involved with the refugees when they're coming in this country. Of course, there's a culture shock, traditional supports are lost, and household roles, of course, is completely disrupted because there's a different type of household roles that they had back home. Social circles are lost, daily routines, monetary resources, family, language, recognition of career and education. These are all challenges and adds up to each other and make the refugees overwhelmed, and they do need help to be connected with a mental health expert and so And those are the areas that IRIS is providing support to them. We are not providing actually counseling and so forth, but we're connecting them with the resources available to them. We have a health team objective, and then I'm going to skip that one. And employment is the other services that we provide. Under employment, our goal is to maximize immigrants' potential. I have to mention a few figures here. What is the benefit of the immigrants and refugees in our state, perhaps, in Connecticut? As of January 2025, Connecticut has 92,000 unfilled jobs, by the way, and 25% of foreign trained professionals are underemployed. 50% of recent immigrants have a bachelor's degrees, but they cannot find a job in their field because their degrees are not recognized here yet. Yet 1 in 4 can find jobs at their skill level. IRIS proposes targeted workforce partnership to close this gap. So these are our objective that we're working towards. Also, immigrants powering cities' growth. So cities' native-born workforce is aging rapidly. You might know this. You might have seen the studies has been completed, showing the result. The result is showing that working age adults declined by over 100,000 since 2010, and labor force only grew by something less than 30,000 in a decade. So it's in Connecticut. Immigrants now make up 20% of city workforce, and that's a good number of the immigrants that are employed in Connecticut. What we're trying to do is that we are trying to fill the gaps. So repositions resettlement agencies as a labor force accelerators to address what I just mentioned as a kind of gaps and challenge in Connecticut, partnering with workforce boards and employers, for example, match program that we have like manufacturing and technical community hubs and CWP's Connecticut workforce programs. So through this, we are trying to offer a kind of AI-assisted vocational in English and cultural literacy. Focus on manufacturing, healthcare, clean energy, of course, inspired by successful models in Michigan, Colorado, and Maine. Of course, under education, earlier I mentioned that we, of course, assist clients to improve their English, and it is so important. And I would like to just quickly go through this. What is the economic value of English upskilling? 1.6 million public investments across 14 states, which is like that invested, and over 5,500 learners participated in that. The result of that is 10.4 million in economic gains. So it is a kind of ROI, actually, return on investment. Investment in immigrants and refugee, the studies clearly shows that at least every dollar you invest in refugee and immigrants in this country, you gain in return 1.26 at least. And that's a base. English proficiency boosts employment and wages. It's very obvious. And immigrants, 100% of Connecticut's population growth from 2013 to 2023. As I mentioned earlier, of course, the Connecticut workforce shortage is an issue, but also besides that, there is workforce aging is another issue. And those are the challenges that immigrants could, through refugee resettlement programs, we can definitely address to an extent. And also, immigrants is a critical opportunity to secure Connecticut's future workforce. And there is 2 other programs that I have not included here that I would like to mention. Those 2, very important, but very briefly. One program that we have is food pantry. So every single week, IRIS Food Bank program serve between 500 to 600 participants in that program. And it's every single week. And this program is not only for our clients, immigrants and refugees, but also it is open to broader communities in New Haven areas. That's one of the programs. It's pretty huge. And the second one is the legal services that we have. So the legal services is providing services to our refugee clients to adjust their status. I would like to very briefly give you kind of context of refugees. I, at the beginning, mentioned that refugees, when they leave their country of origin, because of the fear that they have, fear of persecution, they go to the third country, maybe in the neighboring countries, for example. There, they have to apply for asylum with the UN organizations. And once the UN organization review their grounds and their reasoning for the fear that they state from their country of origin, they will grant them an asylum or refugee status, I would say in this case. Once they have the refugee status, then they will be referred to a number of host countries. For example, in the case of the United States also has been a host countries up to at least beginning of this year for many, many refugees. And this process involves, again, a multi-layers of security, biometric and biographic screening, besides medical screening overseas before they are cleared to come to this country. And of course, our all security agencies, Homeland Security, FBI, even intelligence agencies are involved in the process to screen these refugees before they are cleared to come to the United States. So now this process, a few words that I mentioned, you might say it might be completed in 1 year, in 2. No, it takes at least between 10 to 20 years before a refugee is cleared and are allowed to come to the United States. With exceptions of SIVs, it's a different process perhaps, but refugees typically take between 10 to 20 years before they're allowed to come to the United States. So the reason why the process is so lengthy, because of so much multi-layers of rigorous screening is involved in the process for each and every refugees. There are many, many refugees that get denied during the process for resettlement in the United States and also in many other kind of host countries. So once they arrive here, they have a path to citizenship, meaning that after a year or so, they have to apply for a green card. And the green card is another, of course, it requires a lot of works to be completed, paperwork, and of course, an attorney is needed for that to complete them and represent them with the USCIS. There are refugees that might not be approved for a green card, by the way. So once they're approved for this kind of status adjustment, there is a need of attorneys. So we have a legal services within IRIS that can help them. And at this juncture of time, I think the legal services role is more important than ever. It is because this big, beautiful bill that was passed by the current administration, by the Congress, and this bill is disqualifying these refugees that traditionally always have been eligible for public benefits, such as a very short-term time limit food services, but also health care insurance for a time-bound and limited time. They are going to be disqualified and they lose eligibility very soon for both services, unfortunately. And thousands of refugees that we have welcomed are at the verge of losing these benefits. And that's why legal service is going to be boosted a little bit. And we also ask our communities to donate towards that green card funding so that we can help those refugees apply, at least submit their green card application so that hopefully it's going to be processed and they receive their green card, and then they will be again qualified for these services. So currently, these public benefits are restricted to only permanent residency, and those permanent residents are those who are who hold green cards. And refugees, a lot of them, they don't. And we welcomed thousands of them within the last year, and unfortunately, none of them are yet permanent residents, unfortunately. Well, with that, I think I would like to just give you a few resources. So we have every year have a run for refugees. It is happening in New Haven. I think it's February, and it's fun. We encourage all the communities to participate, but also there are a few things that you could do if you would like to get involved at this very critical time. You could be a volunteer to assist a refugee family. You could make a kind donation. You could make a financial donation, which is crucial at this time. You could employ an IRIS client if you know somebody that could have an opportunity for someone. Doesn't matter what kind of job is this. They are very, very open to any kind of job. And also you could invite a speaker to any kind of community events. And these are all possible. And you could go, if you want to scan this QR code, you could take you directly to our website. Otherwise, you can visit our website at iriscity.org. And there's a lot of information there and a lot of opportunity for you to get involved. With that, back to you, Rachel. It was prolonged and happy to answer any question there might be.
Dad, thank you so much. What a comprehensive presentation of so much important information. That was going to be my question, was how people could directly get involved. So thank you for providing that. I will send out the website information to everyone after. I heard you say donations for legal fees, but obviously I'm sure any donation, that you accept, what you'll put to the uses that you need most. I heard food pantry as well. Could people donate food?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have our food bank here in New Haven. Like I said, it's huge number of participants in that service. 500 between 500 to 600 people every week. It's once a week. It's open. We do get some food from Connecticut Food Share, as you know that this
Hmm.
big beautiful bill has impacted all those organizations, such as Connecticut Food Share too, uh,
Yes.
and we do fall short a lot of time.
I hear that you're located in New Haven. We're very close to Hartford. Is there any way, if people can't get to New Haven, is there anything based out of Hartford that we can do for Iris?
I might be able to get back to you on that, Rachel, and then you can share with the broader community. Currently, we don't have, and there are other food banks in Hartford that we try to connect or direct our clients to them.
Great.
Yes.
Excellent. So, does anyone have any questions for Dodd? You can type them, or you could email them later, and I'm sure I could get an answer for you.
And any question is welcome. So
All right, I'm going to stop our recording so that if anybody would like to ask something offline, they can.